Hi, it's me again. I'm back with another video. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about, I guess it's quite a sensitive topic, but it's about my issue with giving non-Black people the quote unquote pass. Now, this is something that I think I talked about quite a bit before. So I grew up in upstate New York, right? And in New York, we have this issue where pretty much everyone says the N word as long as you have some proximity to Blackness. And as I got older and, I learned about history, I started to feel like a level of discomfort with like how often non-Black people would refer to me as the N-word, say the N-word, just the level of comfort that they had with it. Like at, I think 16 or 17, I stopped saying it just because like with family and friends and everybody, I would just hear it used pretty much the same way that some people use and That bothered me. So as things kept progressing and I got older, I realized how much I dislike the word. Like I won't tell other Black people what to do with the word, but my issue arises when certain Black people are like, well, I'm not offended by it, so I think that my friend should be able to say it, or they give their friend a quote unquote pass or something like that. It's not very healthy in my opinion, and also it just keeps bringing up the same discourse where people will say, oh, this person's invited to the cookout or this person has the pass, they're cool. But that's not really good because when you're giving people access to a hate word, they're going to use it as they see fit. Like I'm a gamer, right? So I have encountered many white folk on the game where they'll just keep saying it. And I'm like, are you Black? No. So why do you keep saying this word? Oh, I've got a pass. My friend said it's cool. So in their mind, like as long as one Black person tells them it's okay, they're going to refer to pretty much every Black person that they meet in that way. I've had friendships end because I asked non-Black people to not say the N-word and that I wasn't comfortable with them saying it. And the response was, well, this other Black person said it's okay, so I'm going to take their word over yours. It's the same thing when online discourse occurs where some white person does something that's Black adjacent and many Black people will say, oh, this person's invited to the cookout. So then other white people will say, oh, if I enact this behavior, I too can have some cool points or proximity to Blackness, and they'll engage in that same behavior and they may or may not be critiqued. But if you've gone through any of the Afrobeat tags, just on any form of social media and you see white people dancing, some white people, they get so much praise from Black people and other white people get put down. But you have to think about how someone who is in that mindset is going to think. They're not going to say, well, this one person did the dance very good and that is why they're getting praised. They're saying, oh, this person did the dance and that's enough. So they think just existing or being in proximity to Blackness is enough for them to participate in the culture, which is my issue with giving people the pass. There's always going to be some people who are adjacent to Blackness, even if it's a poverty situation. But if you're willy-nilly giving other people the right to use hate speech against you in a casual way, that's going to trickle down. I don't know if you guys have seen this documentary, but I saw it a while ago. And it's about this white family in America who, because of the one drop rule, which I also don't really like because race is a social construct, but while we're in that construct, I don't think it's fair to invite people into these areas so that they can see the oppression and then not really help you. But back onto my point, there's this white family, and because of the one drop rule, they think that they are Black. Even though the kids don't think they're Black. The mom is like, no, we're Black, we're this, we're that, we're this, we're that. And everyone can see that they're not Black. Like they don't meet the social construct of what it is to be Black. But because of, racist pseudosciences, they're thinking, oh, I'm Black, so I have to behave in this way or I have to act in this way or do these things. And no matter how you look at them, they're very white. I'll likely include some pictures. But this is why I go back to how these social contracts and social constructs that are existing in America about race can be very detrimental because I was okay for a really long time with my friends using those slurs against me because I did not understand the history and the context in which those words were used. What is the difference between them calling me the N-word and, a slave master referring to their slaves as that? Like, it just holds a certain level of power over you. And as I got older, I just kept feeling so much discomfort with it. And I've had conversations with other people who also were, I've never given the pass to somebody, but this friend had given a pass to their white friend. And as I got older and they learned more about social stuff, I think it just comes with education. Like the more they learned about our history and the impacts that that word has had on the amount of rights that we've had, they became more and more uncomfortable with it, but they weren't aware how to word to their friend in a way that wasn't combative, that they no longer felt comfortable. So we had several conversations and I ended up helping them have that conversation. And that guy was not willing to hear it. He's like, well, I got a pass from somebody else. So even if you revoke yours, I'm still saying it. And I don't know what happened with their friendship after that. It's not my business. But at the end of the day, if you're going to keep propagating this idea that people who are adjacent to blackness in any type of way or have any type of contact with blackness have a right to basically verbally and emotionally oppress you, I don't think that that's healthy for society. Even, I try not to be negative about this, but it's really hard not to. So if you've ever been on social media and you see comments that's like, oh, but do you like black people? You like black guys? You like black girls? It's very lowering of oneself. It seems like you don't love yourself and you need validation and approval from other groups in order to be confident in your identity. And it bothers me. And when people are willing to give the pass, I feel like it comes from that same place of wanting approval of somebody and thinking you're doing them a favor, which will get you brownie points or proximity to whiteness or any other background in some case by giving them the right to basically belittle you. I'm not sure if that's where everyone's coming from, but most of the people who I've met, it's like that because they're like, oh, I'm not really like black like that. Like he's basically blacker than me, so he should be able to say it. What are you talking about? Like look at yourself and look at this person. It's like a certain level of mental gymnastics that I don't subscribe to. So I've had many, many encounters where I just get exhausted trying to talk to people. When I was in college, I would try, and educate people, sit down and have conversations about why they can't say the word or why the word is hurtful or all the history of the word. But you know what? I realized eventually it's not fair to me. Why do I have to sit here and educate you when Google is free? I'm heavy on the let allies handle it. If people want to be educated or whatever, go talk to somebody else because I'm not going to be sitting here lecturing you about why or why not you should be allowed to say hate speech or have bigoted views. It's just not something that I want to engage with consistently because it's a very exhausting situation to be put in mentally, to have to sit there and explain to somebody why they should be able to have a certain amount of respect and decorum for you. And I know there's a lot of fetishization towards black identity and black culture. We have people like Rachel Dolezal. What's his name? There's a black guy. I'll probably insert his picture. And that lady from Germany who's obsessed with blackening her skin. And I remember a couple years ago, I watched this documentary about white people in England or the UK. I'm not sure. But they would put in melanin injections and they had many side effects because they just want it to be dark. And I feel, people are cosplaying black identities for the social benefit, but they don't want the political consequences or the detriments that come with being black. So I think at the end of the day, it's not very helpful to us as a society or a culture to be giving people basically passes to intrude on our spaces in general. I know that other groups have social constructs about what is acceptable, what's tolerable in their own spaces. And I'm not one for separating black people or whatever, but there's just certain cultural and social boundaries that need to be set. Like you can't go to a Latino person's quinceañera and start just doing certain dances or saying certain words. It's not acceptable. But we will allow other people to come into places like our cookouts or whatever and behave in ways that are disrespectful, in my opinion. My biggest issue is that every time I see this thing pop up online, people will say, oh, I'm not sure, so let's ask black people. But the issue with that is black people are not a monolith. We're not a collective in that sense where everybody thinks the same way about things. Like even me, this is just my personal opinion. So there's going to be black people who disagree with me, some black people who don't care at all, and some people who avidly disagree with me. So I think it's very, very toxic and also manipulative to be like, oh, well, this one black person told me that this behavior is okay, so I'm going to continue doing it, while they may have met another black person who was absolutely vehemently against that type of behavior. So I don't think it's fair to tokenize black people and say, oh, this one person said it's okay, so I'm going to continue to do this behavior. My opinion, 10 toes down, is always going to be, I don't want anyone who's not black saying the N-word. Heck, I don't even like when black people say it, but who am I to tell other black people what they can and can't do? But when I see non-black people do it, oh yeah, I've got words to say. Don't say it around me. Don't say it at all, because I'm always going to call you on it. I'm going to check you on it. My biggest issue is people who like to distance themselves from blackness and get brownie points through non-Black people by giving them the right to be bigoted. Why? What is the benefit of that? Like, you can say the word, go ahead if you're Black. I don't care. But don't tell other Black people why they can say the word or why you're cool with it. And if you do, even if you say, oh, we just keep it in the house or whatever, or when they're around me, you don't know that, because most of the white people who I've met who have got the pass say it when you're not around. So basically, you're just giving this white person free reign, because they're not going to take it that way, like, oh, only with me. They're going to say it as much as they can without getting in trouble. Like, if you've been on IG comments at all, there are so many white people who will just say, oh, good ups, little N-word, oh, big N-word this, oh, blah, 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 blah. And this is because basically there's no filter, there's no social repercussions to basically disallowing these people from using a word that we've taken back. Because if you've taken back a word to enact power over it, but then other groups are also, quote unquote, taking that word back and enacting power on it, you basically get back to where you were. Like, there's been no social growth or benefit if we're back to the point where non-Black people feel comfortable enough to use this word targeted at us and other non-Black people. Like, even with social media situations, like a certain J person several years ago kept getting exposed as being a racist. And they're like, oh, I wasn't racist because the person I said it to wasn't Black. That doesn't matter. Why are you saying the word in general? I don't understand it. Even the P person who said it while playing a game several times. And I was like, okay, I don't want to subscribe to this person. I don't want to be around this person. Or it was so dehumanizing to me in a way where I felt like I couldn't connect with them as a fan. I felt othered pretty much in those instances. And it made me realize these people will always use these words to put us down. Even if they're trying to gain closeness or proximity or likeness or some commonality, at the end of the day, it's a very othering word when it's coming from the people who initially came up with this word and used it to belittle us. So I had to basically separate myself and realize at the end of the day, I just can't be comfortable with non-Black people saying this word. I don't see the point in giving them a pass or proving the behavior in that language, because at the end of the day, it's going to be aimed at me, it's directed at me. They don't have any consequences from being called that word. It doesn't have the same social and historical impact on them as it does on us. So this is just basically my plea. I know it's probably not going to reach everybody, but let's stop giving people the pass. Let's stop inviting people to cookouts. Let's stop letting people encroach on our spaces, because every other every other identity group has the right to their safe spaces and their cultural grasps. But for Black people, it seems, I can't say all Black people because I don't want to play the diaspora wars, but for Black Americans, at least in my area, it is so exhausting because people are like, oh, I'm basically Black. Because in their mind, like, if they can't reach whiteness, they only think of America as like white and Black. And I know a lot of people have this issue, and since they think of it that way, well, since I can never be white, I might as well encroach on Blackness. And I don't think that that is beneficial to anyone, and it's also exhausting and taxing. So that's pretty much all that I'm going to say on this topic. It was a very fun topic to talk about, but also I hope that my perspective can get out there and be seen and understood, that at the end of the day, we're not a monolith, but people are going to view us as such. So when one Black person says something, unfortunately, you're always going to be the example. We have to work twice as hard for half the credit, and it might be even worse at this point. So don't give people the right or the power to continue to encroach and belittle us. You have a lot of power as an individual Black person, like, especially if you're one of one. I know it's hard for people who are in, situations where it's not very diverse, but you have that power in that situation to not allow these people, at least in your presence or around other Black people, to feel comfortable saying that word. It doesn't take a lot to motivate a white person to be racist. You can do, like, as a joke, I remember this happened in my high school. There was this white boy. He was one of the only white boys in our school. And they're like, oh, say the N-word as a joke. And he was like, no, I don't want to say it. And literally within 1 minute of them, like, oh, just say it, we don't care. He actually said it. So that's when I realized in my mind, it doesn't take a lot to motivate them to say these bigoted words, even if they know it's wrong. Like, if they feel like they have enough approval, they're going to do it. So be careful in who you give that power to, because at the end of the day, once you get out of your little bubble, they're still like up here on the hierarchy. They're still up here on the pyramid. You can't let this person be able to enact even more prejudices against you. So that's all I'm going to say for this time. Next time I'm going to do a video about my journaling process or study habits. I could do study habits, but I've been kind of bad with that lately. Anyway, I'm going to say peace out. Thank you for your time, and bye.